10 months ago, I made a video called R.e.m is a masterpiece, don't at me. This video was loosely based on the amount of times I've watched Season 1 of R.e.m, couldn't understood why it wasn't getting the traction it needed. Or better say, the traction it deserved. I went on to talk about quite loosely how his experiences were somewhat incomparable to other main MCs. Whether it's just in the isekai genre, or it's in shonen, or in general, I felt at the time, and I still do, that he is unparalleled in his pain. And that isn't why I called it a masterpiece, don't get me wrong, but that's a heavily influenced for how the show is so good and so unique in my eyes. Season 1 went over how he uses the power, how he goes over the power, how he copes with the world, how he goes on with the world, how he tries to just make a basic understanding of how he goes forward in life. And he struggled multiple times against the whale, against his own friends, and most of all he struggled against himself. And R.e.m is a show I've spoken about quite a bit about on my channel, and it's a big show that means a lot to me in my life, and I like to think about it a lot and go over it a lot. And this video is to go over the fact that part 1 I spoke heavily about, the original video I spoke heavily about Season 1, and this was calling it a masterpiece without seeing the finished article. Now the show is still ongoing, there's a Season 3 probably coming out in the next 2 years or something. There's light novels still being published, Season 2 has ended a few months back, and I've only just caught up. And I have to say, my original opinion wasn't wrong. R.e.m is still a masterpiece. Now, it's a different kind. Season 1, like I say, it went over those parts. Now, Season 2 was a lot... How do I phrase this? It wasn't story-focused, it was character-focused. Season 1 was about taking down the whale and trying to move out the kingdom, trying to keep Amelia safe and all. Whereas Season 2, it moved from Amelia as the focus to Subaru. Now, that may sound like, I'm sounding a bit surprised because the MC's getting the attention, but that wasn't the case for most of Season 1. Season 1, it was how he is affected by his opinions towards Ram, Amelia, everyone in the household. Now, it was how he reflected on them. Now, on Season 2, it was about him as a person. They went over his backstory with his parents, they went over his future going forward. With both Amelia, Ram, and R.e.m, there's the ramifications of Amelia's past coming back to haunt everybody. There's the election at sake. There's hidden characters' backstories being revealed. There is so much that was filled from Season 1 that let's say if the show ended now, you wouldn't be too unsatisfied. For example, Roswell. For most of Season 1, you saw him as the guy who looks after the house. He's quite mysterious, looks a bit odd, you don't really know what his intentions are. Then you find out his entire backlog in Season 2 and you think, oh my god, there's a lot more than reached the eye of this guy. Beatrice as well was known as the guardian of the Forbidden Library, kind of a funny character, but that was all she was. She was in Season 1, she didn't have any depth to her. Same with Roswell, they had mystery surrounding them, but nothing was there. And then Season 2, it went and filled all that. Anything that's possible there, it filled it out nicely, bit by bit. Now, the only thing you'd go forwards is, you'd probably go, well, Season 3, I'd like to know what happened to R.e.m, why can't certain things happen? I would talk about spoilers, but this isn't a spoiler video, it's an opinion. As it stands, there are 7 arcs in R.e.m, and the anime has only covered the first 4, the 5th one is the next coming. Now, this video isn't going to be an intellectual one, it isn't going to be, I give you stats and analysis and all this isn't that, it's purely opinion and reaction to how I felt when watching Season 2. And I wasn't disappointed, like I say, I still maintain the fact that it's a masterpiece, it's one of the best shows I've ever watched. Whether people agree or disagree with me, that's fine, that's why it's an opinion. You can choose to argue it or not, but that's how I feel. And after I finished Season 2, my first thought was, when's Season 3? What's happening next? What's going next? Whereas when Season 1 ended, because it was almost closed off, it's like they didn't realise that they had enough momentum to go for a Season 2. Now, there's plenty of material out there, and you may be thinking, well, what do you mean? And I'm meaning the fact that some shows, you can tell by the way the first season's ended that they're almost prepared for it not to get picked up for a second season, because not every show is guaranteed that. Some shows get pre-contractually, agreed to do that. Some shows go season by performance, and anime heavily does that. And R.e.m, when the Season 2 announcement dropped, I was over the moon for it because I didn't know any of the source material. Now, I've started reading some of the source material for the next season, and it's already starting to fill gaps again. And I'm kind of in shock of that because I'm not a big light novel fan, because it's effort. Whereas when it comes to manga, it's very easy for me because I'm a simpleton. But R.e.m is definitely one I'd recommend highly, even to those who aren't particularly interested. Like I said, there's 7 arcs at the moment. The story, the anime is going over the first 4. You've seen R.e.m and R.e.m's backstory in the first season, Roswell season 2, Beatrice season 2, Amelia finally majority season 2, and it then throws in, like, for example, the first 2 or 3 episodes of season 2 are flat out action, non-stop trauma, all that again, and then it sort of takes a slow pace. It goes from action and what it was season 2 to very much story driven, mystery driven, emotional, going from there. And I still have to say that Subaru's little moment with his parents and the little backstory there, even though it was all Ekina's vision, God, that hit me. That destroyed me, that did. Because that's one thing I don't think anyone ever considers when isekais happen, is what happens on the other side? What happens when they leave that world, whether they die or they get transported or whatnot? What happens to those they leave behind? And, you know, season 1, when Subaru got moved over to the world, you never really got, oh, I wonder what happened to my parents, blah, blah, blah. And that only happened in season 2. Now, obviously you don't see the real reaction, but you see what would be the interpretation of what would have happened, because he's obviously in the different world. He can't do that. And I loved every minute of it, and I do think there are some conflicting things within The Witches that are going to be pretty good to see. Now, me saying the whole thing about Subaru thing is a slight spoiler, but at the same time, it's not really story. It doesn't mess with the story, does it? And season 2 maintained itself by still being quite funny, quite upbeat, quite chirpy at times, and then it was also able to flip the switch and go straight to, it's very dark, it's very grim, it's very down to the bone, that it to the point where you sort of sit there and go, I'm highly uncomfortable. And that, I don't know, I think that's done intentionally, simply for the fact that, you know, there are some moments where it's like, oh my god, this is incredible, this is cute, this is wholesome. There's a moment in season 2 where, I think it's in the light novel actually, where something happens with Amelia and she says something stupid, and it's almost like 2 pages ago you had an intense fight, 2 pages later it's chirpy stuff again. And that's just it. To me, I enjoy that. Now, whether it will ever be known as a masterpiece or whether it will go down as one of the greatest of all time is a different thing. We've had other shows like this. No Game No Life was another example where it's quite fantasized and it's quite intriguing to go with, you know, and some isekais pull it off quite well, some don't, and I think R.e.m can't be considered in my eyes a standard isekai. Now, obviously I'm probably going to get people correct me on this, and please do, I'm not exactly the most factual person here, but ayo. And yeah, I haven't really got much more to say on it other than the fact I've been meaning to do this for a little while, hence why it's been about 10 months since it happened. And ever since watching it, I only caught up, I believe, last week, so yeah, I'm still fairly fresh on it. But I'm looking forward to what the future of R.e.m has, I really am. I want to see how Amelia and Subaru going forward, how their relationship develops. I'd like to see how the real election gets on. I want to see how, or whether or not Subaru will ever be able to let anyone know about Return by Death, what happened to R.e.m. There's so much to unfold, and that's what I mean by Season 1. Season 1 filled those gaps, but then didn't leave much to intrigue. Season 2 threw a lot of stuff at you and left you intriguing on most things, but it also closed up on things. So it left some open ends ready for the next season, and I loved that. And that's just normal storytelling, don't get me wrong, but I'm a simpleton. So if you liked this video, hit the like button, I guess. Subscribe. Share it if you want, just to laugh at me. Cool. Follow my TikTok. I do plan on streaming at some point again. That all highly depends. But peace. Watch R.e.m and read it.